For the general election in Ireland, the leader of the opposition Fine Gael party is hoping he's the next leader. Enda Kenny urged voters to turn their anger into action over Ireland's humiliating economic collapse. The governing Fianna Fáil party, which oversaw the boom to bust and the $90 billion bailout, is braced for an election rout. The United Nations is warning that Côte d'Ivoire is on the brink of sliding back into civil war. Post-election violence between supporters of rival presidential candidates Alassane Ouattara and Laurent Gbagbo is escalating. Thousands of people have fled the economic capital, Abidjan. In New Zealand, violent aftershocks are shaking the shattered city of Christchurch. 123 people are now confirmed killed in Tuesday's earthquake. That total is expected to rise further because more than 200 people are still missing. Search teams from 6 countries have flown in to help local rescuers, but no survivors have been found since Wednesday. The French fashion house Christian Dior has suspended its creative director John Galliano after he was accused of assault. Galliano allegedly made anti-Semitic remarks and slapped a couple at a bar in Paris. Police say he was drunk at the time and detained him temporarily. The British designer has been the head of Christian Dior for 14 years and was set to kick off Paris Fashion Week on Monday. Keep watching Al Jazeera for the very latest on what's happening in Libya. It's been another day of high drama in the troubled North African nation. Before we go, let's take a brief look at what's been happening. As the protests continued for an 8th day, the Libyan leader has turned up at a pro-government rally in the capital Tripoli, defiant as ever, promising to fight to defend his position. Defiance too from the demonstrators, some of whom faced another violent crackdown, and there are reports of yet more deaths. And this prompting an impassioned plea at the United Nations by the Libyan ambassador there for the killing to stop, an appeal echoed by the UN chief himself. Sanctions have now been slapped by the US and NATO to put pressure on Gaddafi, but his second oldest son, Saif, has spoken a short while back. He called on the European Union to send a fact-finding mission to Libya.
I think everyone... Personally, I urge the Europeans to send fact-finding mission to Libya as soon as possible, because we are not afraid of facts. We are worried about rumors and lies, because facts are on our side.
And those are the major developments from Libya this hour. We'll be updating you throughout the morning. Stay with Al Jazeera for more news right after Inside Story, which is coming up next. Stay with us.
After more than a week of unrest, thousands of Libyans are still calling for the end of Muammar Gaddafi's rule. But the man who's led Libya for more than 41 years is clinging to power. What does the current political structure in Libya look like, and what kind of Libya would emerge if Gaddafi falls? This is Inside Story. Hello and welcome to the program. I'm Hazem Sika. For the past 41 years, the Libyan leader Muammar Gaddafi has created his own style of rule, the so-called state of the masses, or Jamahiriya. It's a political system that was supposed to create a popular government with power directly vested in the hands of the people. In 1990, Gaddafi was appointed supreme leader by the General People's Congress that he created in 1977. In 1992, Gaddafi fragmented the political structure by dividing Libya into 1,500 mahallat, or communes, each with its own budget and powers. In 2000, he abolished most central government executive functions, devolving responsibility to 26 councils that make up the General People's Congress, maintaining control over all facets of the regime. But the reality is that unlike in Tunisia or Egypt, Libya lacks the strong institutions that could help smooth a transition process. With Gaddafi's regime seemingly on its last legs in Libya, some form of leadership is taking place in the eastern part of the country. Well, joining us now to talk more about this are our 3 guests. In London, Jeremy Keenan, North Africa security analyst and author of books on the Maghreb region, including The Dark Sahara, America's War on Terror in Africa. In Amman, Ahmed Attiga, a Libyan analyst. In Washington, D.C., Ibrahim Sahad, Secretary General for the National Front for the Salvation of Libya. Jeremy Keenan, if I could start with you. The Libyan state has essentially been built around one man, and there's no unifying force or figure to replace him. So is there a risk of a major power vacuum here should Gaddafi eventually fall?
I think there will obviously be a power vacuum. That goes without saying, because in a sense, Gaddafi and his family and his thugs and the institutions immediately close to him, his own Praetorian Guard, were in a sense the power. However, in answer to that question, I have huge faith in the Libyan people. I think if we look at Benghazi and what is happening there, and has happened in a very short period of time, street committees developing and giving all the appearances of the ability to run the situation in an extremely difficult situation, I have confidence, quite frankly, in the Libyan people themselves. One reason for that is that Libya, perhaps more than any other country in the region, has an extraordinary high level of education in a formal sense. There may not be jobs, there may not be positions there for them, but the Libyan people themselves have an extraordinary high level of knowledge, understanding, and skills and abilities. And I think we're seeing all of that coming to the fore very rapidly at the moment. And in spite of that vacuum, I think I have confidence that in the Libyan people themselves to manage that and hopefully fill it in.
But there is also
there
could also be a scenario, couldn't there, that if Gaddafi himself is toppled, there could be remnants of his regime that will continue to resist, because they have a vested interest in that, and there is a fear of the alternative here. It's basically a fight to the death for many of them.
Absolutely. I mean, this is the big question at the moment. How long will it take to clear those remnants of the Gaddafi's regime? And what I'm hearing, certainly last night and this morning, is a little bit disturbing on that, because the three questions are: how long will his own units remain loyal to him? To what extent are these mercenaries coming into the country still, in what sort of force? And thirdly, and the really disturbing question for me, is what sort of support is he getting from his neighbors? And by that I'm referring particularly to Algeria. That is a bit of an unknown question. We could talk about it perhaps in a moment. But those are unknowns. And until, in a sense, we have a handle on that, and we know how strong his resistance is and how quickly it might be cleared, that is very much the unknown question, literally today.
Unknown questions indeed. Ahmed Attiga in Amman, what do you believe is the most likely scenario here going forward?
I think the Libyan people will, as they have shown in the last week or so, will put the interest of the country at the foremost, and will start creating the political structure that will fill the vacuum that you have alluded to. I think one of the worst sins of the Gaddafi regime was the complete absence of any political structure or system that could have been utilized in a transitional phase going forward. And for example, in Tunisia and in Egypt, when they solved their problems, they had a constitution that they immediately resorted to and changed some articles and managed to put a transitional structure. Libya did not have anything of that sort. So I think the challenge is to have a structure that could be emerging very quickly and putting the elements of a regime or a system that will have democratic, of course, starting with a constitution, leading to association, freedom of association, freedom of creating parties, and ultimately an election that the people will choose those who will lead them.
Ibrahim Sahad, how do you see a post-Gaddafi regime in Libya unfolding? There are fears of a lack of unity in terms of what could follow.
No, there is no lack of unity within the Libyan people. On the contrary, the atmosphere in those cities who fell under the demonstrators became a very, very encouraging atmosphere. Solidarity, brotherhood feeling start to emerge there. I got the information that the cities are forming committees to run business, 2 committees for each city, one for the security and the other one for the administrative purposes. I understood that from my contacts that those committees are communicating now with each other to start the process of forming a provisional government. That provisional government will lead the country toward the next step, which is forming a transitional government which take care of the transitional period. In that period, there will be election for the a conference to draft a constitution, and then a referendum on that constitution done by the Libyan people. The constitution will then govern the political life of Libya. We are looking forward to see that constitution.
One of the things. Sorry to interrupt, Ibrahim Saad, but one of the things that we mentioned at the top with Libya is the lack of strong institutions that would help to transition all of these things that you're talking about: elections, a constitution, and so on. So isn't there a kind of a vacuum there in that there aren't these strong elements that would help that?
Well, the vacuum will be filled very, very quickly. We saw that yesterday in Al-Bayda when they have a meeting and they rally around the Minister of Justice, Judge Mustafa Abdul Jalil, and there are many figures in Libya who can lead this stage. I mean, the way I hear it, that the provisional government is in process now to be formulated, and when that happens, that will take care of the daily life of the country and will move forward for the next step. Everybody now talking about a constitutional government, a democratic government. We're looking forward to see the constitution govern the life of the Libyan people. That's why we all want to get rid of Gaddafi, because he did not allow the country to have a constitution for 41 years, and he make an anarchy, so nobody else can run business but himself, and nobody can succeed him easily. The way I see it is moving forward.